I'm WWE superstar Titus O'Neil, and today I'm coming to you as a neighbor. You owe it to yourself and those you love to get tested now. Get the care you need and protect your family. Hillsborough County is offering free coronavirus testing and no health insurance is needed. It costs you nothing to get tested. Visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for more information and have a reservation made today. Share this with a neighbor, and let's come together as a community and keep fighting to get through this. Together, we will come back stronger. God bless.
Hillsborough County, along with local and federal health experts, are encouraging residents to wear cloth face masks to cover their nose and mouth when in public to help stop the spread of COVID-19. There are not enough surgical face masks for everyone, and available ones should go to healthcare workers and first responders. It's easy to make your own face mask out of common household items. The CDC and U.S. Surgeon General say you can use an old scarf, bandana, or make one using a t-shirt plus 2 rubber bands. Cut part of the t-shirt into a square, fold it from the bottom to the middle, then from the middle to the top. Repeat those steps one more time, then add a rubber band to each side. Bring each end to the middle, then secure around your face. They should fit snugly but comfortably. Cloth face coverings should not be placed on children younger than 2 years of age or people who have trouble breathing. The CDC emphasizes that while wearing a face mask, you should still practice social distancing, stay 6 feet apart from others, and continue other preventative measures such as frequent hand washing. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for up-to-date information.
Flossing in the morning is a really great way to keep your teeth healthy and start the day. But when you're through, here's what you do. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. There's a problem lots of people don't know, called sanitary sewer overflow. A condition buried deep in the ground, inside a pipe where bad clogs are found. It's a problem we can all help solve, so throw it in the trash, don't flush it. Baby wipes, bandages, cotton pads, paper towels, dental floss, clog up bad. Medicines, kitty litter, cotton swabs, hair. Throw them in the trash, don't flush it. It just takes a second to do the right thing, so toss it and let's keep our pipes clean. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it. Even if it says you can, don't flush it. If you're having any doubts, don't flush it. One more time, don't flush it.
This is a battle we've never faced in my lifetime. I want to tell you about 416 of the most amazing people. Every day I get to see their skill, professionalism, and dedication. Their commitment to protect and improve the health of everyone in Hillsborough County. The last 2 months, they've been on the front line of a battle with a very dangerous enemy, COVID-19. And they've risen to the challenge in the most amazing, heroic way. Everyone has contributed, sacrificing their personal life, which they put on hold. They're making a difference for everyone they help, and every day I get stopped and told just how amazing they are. I'm proud and blessed to work with them, my second family.
Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victor DeMaio. I'm the chairman of the Hillsborough County Industrial Development Authority Board, and if I'm a little nervous or appear nervous, it's because this is the very first time in the history of the IDA board that we've actually gone live on television to the general audience. So it's kind of unique for all of us, but we appreciate your indulging us this morning. We're kind of a unique board. We do industrial revenue bonds for the county, and a lot of the stuff is sometimes exciting, depending on the subject, and other times it kind of gets into the weeds. But anyway, I want to welcome everybody this morning that's watching us for our official recording on television. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around the table, first of all, to the people that are here so they can identify themselves one-on-one, not just for the television audience, but also for the court reporter and the people up in the control room to know who you are, since it's the first time for many of them. And then I'm going to go to the people that are watching us online that are going to be participating from home, from their laptops. So first of all, I'm going to go to, I guess, my left and introduce Tom.
I'm Tom Morrison. I'm General Counsel for the Industrial Development Authority.
Good morning, I'm Dick Donahoe. I'm a board member.
Good morning, I'm Patrick Ahern, a board member.
Good morning, I'm Tony Rodriguez. I'm a board member.
Okay, so I guess I'm supposed to push a button here, you said, to be able to recognize the people that are online, or they can just identify themselves one-on-one?
Pop up for you.
Okay, so
Say their name.
I guess since you can't, I don't know if you can see us online, but I'll go ahead and ask you people that are online to please identify yourself one-on-one and go ahead and say hi and say your name and welcome.
I'll start. I'm Marianne Edmonds, Public Resources Advisory Group, Financial Advisor to the Authority.
Good morning, Ms. Grace Dunlap with Bryant Miller Allen.
Tampa General?
Hi, my name is Julie Wisdom. I'm with Hillsborough County and work in the budget and management and budget department.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Appreciate that.
Good morning, this is Elijah Loknath. I'm the Vice President of Finance at Tampa General, participant.
Could you say that again and speak a little louder? We didn't hear you.
Sure, my name is Elijah Loknath, Vice President of Finance at Tampa General Hospital.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lycom. And anyone else?
Good morning, this is Sandy McLennan with Squire Patton Boggs.
Sandy, thank you.
I believe the only one we have left is Mike Kurzmarki. Mike, can you hear us? You're muted. Mike, can you hear us?
Well, we have a full complement here and online. So I'm going to go, I'll go ahead. I've already called the meeting to order. If I hadn't already said that officially, I'm going to do it now. We do have a quorum. That's a second on the agenda. We did a roll call. I'd like to just take a brief moment here for a moment of silence for people to give us a little bit of help from above, or considering what we're going through now in our world, and kind of we're going to have a change of power. I went to a couple of swearing-in ceremonies this week for our local officials, and we're going to have a new president here soon. So I'd just like to everybody give me a moment of silence, if you don't mind, and indulge me, and we'll move forward with the meeting. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's another new thing for our board. So first off, we have on the agenda, we have a consideration of adoption of a bond resolution authorizing certain changes to the original loan agreements relating to Tampa General Hospital bonds. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tom, and you kind of brief us on everything that we're here for today.
Mr. Chairman and board members, please recall that in the last quarter of last year, the authority issued bonds for Tampa General Hospital. And in the process of that bond issue, you approved some changes to the master trust indenture and master loan agreement relating to the bonds that modernized certain provisions that really have nothing to do with our financial considerations, but improve things for the hospital and just make it more modern and easier for them to operate. After that closed in the latter part of the year, I was approached by their counsel and their bond counsel, who asked if the authority would please consider amendments to some of the older bond documents, specifically the 2013 and 2015 documents, to make them consistent with the changes that were made for the 2020 series of bonds. And I said, well, we'd certainly put it on the agenda, and whether you consider it or not is up to you. The documents are accompanied by a resolution, which is the norm, approving the changes. I've reviewed them, and there was nothing in there that bothered me at all. Grace and Kareem and Marianne and Molly also had copies, and nobody raised any concerns. So with that, I recommend that you turn it over to Tampa General, and they and their counsel can explain the specifics of what it is they want to do.
Thanks, Tom. And that would be
Probably
either Sandy? I'm sorry. Yes, I hear Sandy and Lisa, I think. Sandy, you want to go first and give us a briefing on what you're asking us to do this morning?
Sure. So, and again, Sandy McLennan with Squire Patton Boggs, and we served as bond counsel on the transaction that was closed the end of October. What you have before you is a resolution that would approve amendments to the 2013 and 2015 loan agreements. The 2013 and 15 loan transactions were refinancing transactions that the IDA approved for the benefit of Tampa General to refinance certain outstanding debt. These were done as bank loans as opposed to publicly offered debt. So in the most recent transaction, we did make certain amendments to the master trust indenture. Both of the loan agreements from 2013 and 2015 required us to also get those lenders' consents to the changes that we were making to the master indenture in order for those changes to be effective with respect to those outstanding loans. So once we got the bond transaction closed at the end of October, we reached out to the banks, PNC Bank and TD Bank, to request their consent to the master indenture amendments that the new bondholders had approved. As a result of those discussions with those respective lenders, they requested that certain amendments be made to the existing loan agreements that would incorporate the amendments to the master indenture, but also retain certain of the existing covenants that the lenders had enjoyed in the 2013 and 2015 loan agreement. So they didn't agree to 100% of the amendments that we made to the master indenture. I would say it was about 95%. So there were a couple of covenants that a couple of changes to the master indenture that they would require their subsequent consent in order for Tampa General to utilize them, which would have been, the way I look at it, the way Tampa General looked at it is that if we had been doing a new loan agreement with these banks today, these are the things that they would have put in their new loan agreement. Sort of retaining the old version of the debt service reserve, debt service coverage ratio, retaining some other covenants. So what the two banks proposed in terms of the amendments to the loan agreement were acceptable to Tampa General, and their consent to the remaining amendments are now conditioned on entering into these these respective first amendments to the loan agreements, which brings us to the reason for the request today. Since the IDA is a party to those loan agreements, the IDA's consent is required in order to amend those previous loan agreements.
Thanks. Is Grace there? Grace, would you mind chiming in and give us your, since you're our financial advisor as well? Is that appropriate?
She's bond.
Is that appropriate? So yes, please.
So we act as special bond counsel along with Tom. And I will say, as Tom mentioned, he did provide us with a set of the documents, but Tom took the laboring core, so to speak, with the review of the documents. But as was reported, everything seems to be in good order, Victor.
Okay.
Might ask Mary Ann as the financial advisor.
Yes, Mary Ann Edmonds, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can, and these amendments do not have any financial impact on the authority. They're consistent with what we've done before.
Okay. I appreciate it. Yes.
Unless the members have any questions, you might want to check with them.
Yes, absolutely. That was my next question was, anybody from our board have any additional, any questions whatsoever? Now's your time to speak or forever hold your peace, I guess. This isn't a wedding. Mr. Rodriguez, you're okay?
Good,
Cool with
thank
it?
you.
Mr. Ahern? Okay. Mike, I know you're out there in the virtual world. Can you hear me okay?
I don't believe, I believe he signed off. I believe the user Mike is signed off.
Right, that's fine. I appreciate that. I guess I have a couple questions here. On the, does this affect the amount of the bonds that we spoke about when we went through the original, the original bond resolution as far as, the amount? Is it a greater amount or a lesser amount?
No, this does not affect anything that we've done previously.
Okay.
In my estimation, it brings us to a more conservative position somewhat than we were left at before as far as covenants are concerned.
Okay, because I do, and the other question I have is I have two different amendments here in front of me, one for TD Bank and the other one for PNC Bank. I guess
one relates to the 2013 documents, one relates to the 2015 documents.
Okay, so they're going to go along, they're going to be folded into this new...
Yes, and they're the ones who ultimately have the say over whether or not these covenants get approved.
Okay, and is anyone from, anyone from these particular banks here to represent, or you've contacted?
I don't think any of the banks are here.
Okay, but has anyone contacted them to make sure that this is something?
Well, Sandy certainly has.
Okay, Sandy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Yes, we've been in contact with both PNC Bank and TD Bank, and what you have before you is the result of our negotiation with the bank in order to obtain their consent to these amendments. So this is what they proposed that's before you.
Ed, it won't happen unless they sign it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right, all right. And of course, we have the separate resolution here that you've presented that we have.
Yes, sir, that's the standard form approving resolution, which is okay.
Okay. All right. I'll just, any other questions from the board members? Is that it? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out the obvious for the record that, as is always the case, these documents were thoroughly reviewed and vetted by your rather large legal team.
Right.
As well as the financial experts that advise the authority. And all of us found them to be appropriate as to form and substance.
Right, right. And I guess the very last question I have, I guess the amount the bond, I think, that we had looked at and approved and discussed and so forth, I think it was just under $1 billion, I think?
I think, and Sandy will have to confirm, I believe the principal amount, which as you know, changes down to the day of closing.
Correct.
Ended up being north of $800 million. So well, under $1 billion, but in the 800s, and
Right.
Sandy could confirm the actual amount.
Sandy would
I could, but I can't do the math in my head that quickly, but I think it was between 700 million and 800 million. There was a significant refunding component to that, so that we were still but we were still right at the 550 million in new money and new construction. And the remainder was the refinancing piece.
Benefit of the listening public, what the authority does is approve ceiling figures.
Correct.
To exceed figures, and then the financial professionals sharpen their pencils as they get closer to the sale dates, and the amount of bonds that are actually issued are most often less than those that are approved.
Right.
That's what happened here.
Right. And without going to a long history of why we're here and what the Industrial Development Authority does, is the Hillsborough County itself does not actually issue these bonds. These were bonds that will have Hillsborough County's name on it, and one of the reasons I think what's explained to me and what I've learned over the years is people or businesses or entities like Tampa General, St. Joseph, they enjoy certain tax advantages to having a bond.
That's correct. These bonds are what are called Conduit Bonds. They're private activity bonds. They're issued by the Hillsborough County Industrial Development Authority, which is an instrumentality of Hillsborough County government. We're technically independent of them, but they appoint all the members and have to approve everything the authority does. The bonds issued are non-recourse to either the authority or the county or the state or the city or any other governmental entity. They're based solely on the credit of the bond user, which in this case is Tampa General Hospital, which has substantial net worth and very pleasing cash flows, which even in fluctuating times and pandemics and recessions are more than enough to provide adequate debt service coverage for these bonds. So even if there is a default and there's no adverse consequences on either the county or the authority other than the publicity that you have to deal with that one of your bonds went into default.
Right.
So they're not technically county bonds, they're the authority's bonds, but they are non-recourse all the way up the line.
Right. And the last couple of bonds we've done, this one for Tampa General, and before this, we did one for St. Joseph, AKA Baycare. I think that was it started out to be $1.2 billion.
Started out to be $1.2 billion. That one also ended up being less. And I believe they were approximately $800 million or plus or minus.
Right.
And both of these bond issues, I might point out, had refinancing elements where the hospitals in both cases took advantage of lower interest rates for outstanding bonds that have long-term maturities, which lowered their cost of money considerably with millions and millions of dollars of savings, plus provided them low-cost financing for capital projects for new buildings, new equipment, new operating rooms, and things of that nature. So these were very, very, very important to our community and our county, and the authorities to be commended for providing that assistance to these very good partners in our community.
Yeah, exactly. St. Joseph and, of course, Tampa General, known as and through this bond as the Florida Health Sciences Center, are actually great. I mean, I've personally, in as far as disclosure, been a patient in both hospitals. And I'm proud to say they're part of our community, and they employ a lot of people here in Hillsborough County.
And even though the authority is somewhat independent of the county because of the way it was created, we are a tool in the county's economic development toolbox. And I'd like to point out for the listening public how much high-level, hard work goes into this by the government staff and our professional staff and these board members. And it can't be done without that team, which deserves some kudos.
Well, thanks. Yes, we have, Tampa Electric Company has been, in the past, has been a part of our bonds. And again, Tampa General, St. Joseph, I think, was it University, the old University Community Hospital one time?
Community Hospital.
Now it's Advent?
Paid their bonds off in cash when they became Advent Health.
Wow.
They just reached into their pocket and paid a whole bunch of money. They just get rid of the debt.
So, and that's, you know, I'm going through some of this because for someone who's tuning in and trying to understand what we do and who we are and why we're here, and even for a couple of the benefit of our new board members who are kind of learning a little bit about the IDA, I just wanted that to get out there so we can hear and understand, because we have a whole huge audience out there listening to us today, and we appreciate being part of Hillsborough County TV for that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, Mr. Chair, the action that's being sought is approval of a resolution by the board which authorizes and approves the execution of these amendments to the 2013 and 2015 bond documents. The resolution is appropriate in form, and the way to go about it would be to ask for a motion and a second and approve it by vote.
So, at the request of our council, I'd like to ask one of the board members, I'll entertain a motion to approve these documents that we have in front of us today. Do I hear a motion from somebody?
I make a motion to approve the documents as they appear today.
All right, I have a motion from Dick. Do I have a second? Okay, Tony?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have a second from Mr. Pat Ahern. So all that being said, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, I guess the ayes have it. It's unanimous. I'll vote aye as well. So thank you, thank you, the people that are online from our financial advisor team, from the Hillsborough County, and also from Tampa General Hospital. Congratulations, you've got your resolution, and appreciate all your attention and help.
Agenda is consideration of adoption of a budget for the 2021 fiscal year. Your fiscal years run from October 1st to September 30th of each year. As I've explained in past years, the adoption of a budget annually is required by law. Unfortunately, we can't do it at the first meeting of the year because that would be in October, and we didn't have a meeting in October, November, or December.
Right.
So this is our first opportunity to address it. I annually explain to the board and to whoever's listening that it's impossible for the authority to predict and adopt a budget with any sense of accuracy. Your revenues and expenditures are almost exclusively dependent on whether or not you have applications for bond issues. You have ongoing operating expenses annually in professional fees and accounting fees primarily, court reporters and fees that you pay to the county and the state, which average approximately $80,000 a year. And that's year in, year out. You have those expenses whether or not you're doing any business. From a revenue standpoint, your revenues are derived exclusively from fees paid by bond applicants and bond users. You get application fees at the time bond applications are filed, and you get financing fees at the time bonds are issued and sold. If there's an application, you get the fee. If the bonds don't close, you don't get anything else. So your ability to plan for revenues is impossible because we never know when an application's coming in. So hence, we have typically in years past just put a $100,000 guess in as anticipated revenues, and we put an $80,000 educated guess in as anticipated expenses. And those are your fixed expenses. When there's a bond issue, your expenses go up exponentially depending on the size and complexity of the bond issue, because your professional team gets paid for their work. And in a small, non-complicated bond issue, fees are relatively low. In complex, very large bond issues, such as those you just have, fees and expenses are very high. So with that being said, I'd turn your attention to what I gave you as a comparison of the budgeted and actual figures for the fiscal year ending September 30th of 2020. You can see in the budgeted column that we used the normal $100,000 estimate for revenues and the normal $80,000 estimate for expenses. I'd point out that the $100,000 estimate in revenues is based on the assumption that you get one large bond issue in a year. Right. If you don't get any bond issues, which has been the case in many of our fiscal years, your revenues are zero. Right. But it doesn't look good if you put zero on the revenue column in a budget that becomes public record. Hence, we hope when we project that we're going to have one good bond issue and you'll have $100,000 in revenue. What actually happened in 2020 is you received applications for two very large bond issues, being the Baycare deal and the Tampa General deal. The Baycare deal started and finished within the fiscal year. The Baycare deal spanned the end of the last fiscal year and the beginning of this one as far as booking the revenues are concerned. That one closed in the last quarter, which was outside of the last fiscal year. Hence, you'll see in the actual column, the figures far exceed those that were projected in the budgeted column. You had a net balance of revenues over expenses of a little more than $38,000, which is lower than your actual revenues because, remember, some of the money that you earned in fees for the Tampa General deal carried over. Their application fee is reflected in your revenues, as are the fees that we paid to the state and county governments for that transaction. But then the financing fee will be recognized in your following year's budget. So with that, I'd turn you to the current year proposed budget. And as I've explained, we know that we received their financing fee for Tampa General in this fiscal year. Hence, instead of having a projected $100,000, I put the actual number.
Right.
Those are the actual revenues that you received in the last quarter of 2020, being the first quarter of your current fiscal year. And then the expense line shows your actual expenses for that bond issue that were incurred in a span time but aren't billed and paid until closing. And those reflect all your legal expenses, the financial advisor expenses, and accounting charges. That does not have the figure in it for the audit that I just circulated, the fiscal year ending September 30, 2020, because I haven't got that accountant's bill yet. So that'll be coming in. But I estimated something for that in the projected expense figures.
Okay.
So I can't tell you that this is going to be close to actual for this year. I can tell you that we don't have anything in the pipeline. And if we don't get anything else in the pipeline, this should approximate what your year is going to look like. Your total revenue over expenses a little bit low because we realized a fair amount of that revenue last year.
Right.
So that's it in a nutshell. You should end up in the black in the current fiscal year, meaning that when I do this next year, you will have had enough profit that you're going to be paying your expenses with money you earned rather than money you have saved.
Right.
your current, I'm sorry, I should have given you the current bank balances. You can see them in the audit. The current bank balances in the audit reflect what your bank accounts look like at present.
Okay.
Which are pretty healthy.
Yes. And just not to interrupt you, and just as an explanation, not just for the people who are listening to us on TV or online, or for our board members who are relatively new, the fact is we're a very small board. We work independently. We don't receive any revenue to operate from Hillsborough County, the city of Tampa, the state, or the federal government. Whatever monies we have in our budget is from what we raise from the bond issues in the process of doing the bond issues. And one of the things that I fought for many years ago before the current board is here now, is for us to have a budget and maintain a budget. At one time, we didn't have a budget. So we do, when the monies come in the door, we put very little bit away for rainy days, because as Tom just explained, some years, this has been an incredible banner year. We've had two of the biggest bonds we passed in the history of the Industrial Development Authority Board, almost $1 billion apiece. And next year, we don't know. We have had years where we've gone an entire year without any bonds whatsoever. So that's, as you can see, that's kind of hard to, how do you budget for that? So I just want people to understand we're not a burden to the county. We actually are a benefit in the sense that we sit here and give of our time voluntarily to review these, which eventually they do. For those who don't know, the final ultimate decision makers are the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners who review this and put the final stamp on it. So.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that before your term began, which was, I can't remember, it's more than 12 years ago, we didn't collect fees.
Correct.
We collected a small application fee, and then at closing of bond issues, I'm having technical difficulties with my mask. At closing of bond issues, we got all the professionals paid out of the proceeds of the bonds rather than out of fees that the IDA charged. And you pointed out to the authority, which the authority, to their credit, agreed with, that number one, that was not fiscally sound because you didn't have a cushion to pay operating expenses. You also pointed out that they should charge a little more to build that cushion, and hence they did. So lest anyone think the authority's making a lot of money, these balances that are shown, the 2019 ending cash balance was $300,738. The 2020 cash balance was $339,978. Again, you got a little bit more money in the carryover time.
Right.
But those balances have been built up over 12 or more years.
Right.
With $39,000, almost $40,000 coming from the last two bond issues.
Right. Right.
So it's not like you're beating applicants up to get money. It takes a long time to build this up. And I misspoke before. Our actual out-of-pocket expenses in a typical year where there are no bond issues is probably more in the $30,000 range.
Right.
Because there's just not a lot of activity generating expense. The $80,000 was a little more because we were anticipating some activity. So, you know, this cushion provides the authority with approximately 8 to 10 years of operating expense coverage in the event there's no bond activity.
Right.
And the number fluctuates. It's been as low as $250,000.
Right.
So that pretty much explains what that is. And I think the cash balance, page 5 of your audit basically tells the authority members the story. of the last 2 years.
Right. And everything we do, by the way, for anybody who's interested, is available. It's all public record. We operate in the sunshine, and if anybody wants any of this information, they're welcome to contact us here at the Hillsborough County. We're actually on the Hillsborough County website under the Hillsborough County Industrial Development Authority Board, and Tom Morrison has been our leader for, how long has it been, 20 years?
Oh, closer to 40.
Almost,
Yeah.
almost 40 years Tom has been directing us in the IDA, because this is our 40-something, we started in what, 80?
Started in 71.
1971.
I came aboard in 79.
So that shows you how long the longevity of our board has been around, so.
And it shows that we know what we're doing. I mean,
Right.
all the board members are long-termers.
Right.
And I like to say we all didn't just fall off the cabbage truck. And I point out that no action is required on the budget, on the audit. Y'all are certainly welcome to conduct discussion. And at the end of the discussion, the appropriate action would just be to take a motion to receive and file.
Okay.
The audit. It will be posted on the authority's webpage of the county website. And it has been filed with the Auditor General's Office of the State of Florida, so the public can get it in either of those places.
Right.
On the Auditor General's website or on our webpage on the county website.
Right, and I do have to point out, we do, since we are an independent board, we are required by statute to do a audit.
The rules are that if you have revenues in excess of $100,000 in a year,
right,
you do an audit, or every other year if you don't have revenues in excess of 100. So we have years that we don't have audits.
Right.
But we do file statutory financial statements annually.
Right.
Which also show revenue and expenses, so.
Okay, so with that being said, again, I'll entertain, does anybody have any questions about, has all the board members had an opportunity to look through the audit at all? And read what Prita, Guida, and Perez has said?
And I apologize for the late date in getting it to you, but it literally just came off the press.
I know I was up to 4 a.m. reading it. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Tom?
My concern with the, when I received the initial budget documents was what do we do with this annual revenue over expenses? And now that I've seen the audit, I understand that the pot of money that goes to, and essentially the reserve fund of the authority in case we need it, as you say, with the times that we have no bond activity, this is how we will have our operating expenses taken care of.
For the benefit of Tony, Patrick, and Dick, who probably haven't heard this discussion before.
And that's the reason I didn't mean to, that's one of the reasons I'm going through some of these things, because we have relatively brand new board members who haven't been a member long enough to understand, not just for the viewing audience, but for the benefit of some of us who are relatively new.
Yeah, with your permission, I'll run through the typical expenses that we have annually, which, as I said, are more in the $25,000 to $30,000 range total. I get an annual retainer of $10,000, which is paid in arrears at mid-year and after the end of the year. So I get paid usually in July $5,000 and in January $5,000 for the prior year, plus whatever expenses that we advance on behalf of the authority and we like to recoup. So the typical checks for that are $5,900, $5,700. Because we sometimes don't have meetings, and I can't get with the chair and the secretary to sign checks, so my firm advances the money, or I advance it personally, and then when it's time to pay my retainer, we recoup that. I get paid by the hour for work outside of the retainer, and what I typically do is I keep track of my time. And when my time starts to exceed what would be $5,000, then I start to bill. That's pretty rare.
Right.
We had a situation over the last couple of years where we worked long and hard with the county, working on the county's guidelines for our bond issues and our guidelines, which kind of match the county's but go a little further because of some of our administrative procedures. That took a tremendous amount of time, so there was extra billing in that regard, but I don't think in total it exceeded the $10,000 retainer by more than $3,000 or $4,000. What I do for the retainer is I work with the auditors on preparation of the audit and the financial statements. I deal with the county on administrative matters all year long. I deal with people who have bonds that go back to 1970, who call and said, I found Grandpa's bonds in a safe deposit box. What do I do? I deal with applicants who call and say, does my black box technology company that never sold a black box before qualify for millions of dollars of bond financing?
Right.
That kind of thing. You know, there's a lot that goes on that you all don't hear about. We also have occasional charges from bond counsel and the financial advisor, which are rare if they're not deal related. But another example would be when we worked on those guidelines, everybody was involved, and everybody charged modest fees for doing that. Hence, you have ongoing legal expenses, you have ongoing accounting expenses, even in years that there's no audit. The process of doing the statutory financial statements is just like an audit because our finances are so simple. The work for the audit is the same as the accounting work is the same. You know, the reporting is different. You don't get this kind of a book. So you do have ongoing expenses that go on from year to year. You have fees that are payable to the state, which aren't very much. We have court reporter expenses, which they don't get paid enough for their value. They're pretty valuable for us. For your benefit, I don't take handwritten minutes because I have to be active, and I can't be writing minutes and being active at the same time. So we just have a court reporter transcribe everything. And that has proven to be valuable because from time to time, county commissioners will have a question on something, and we can just say, here's the transcript of the section that you're interested in, and they know exactly what happened, instead of me writing, the chair said something about this and not tell them exactly what was said. So there's ongoing, those are the ongoing expenses. We have a 2-signature policy on checks. I administer the accounts, but I have a view-only administration with the banks where I can see the statements in the account. I can request information, but I can put money in, but I can't take money out. We require the chair and the secretary to sign checks. The banks will allow us to have 1 signature on a check. Administratively, we require 2. I will confess that since the pandemic started, there have been $175, $200 checks where Victor's in town but Mike is not, or Mike's in town but Victor's not, where I just used one signature on a small check. But if they're big checks, that never happens. You know, if anybody ever decided to go in and audit us, they would see that any significant amount of money, which is, I'd say over $1,000, would have 2 signatures on all the checks. And I'm kind of the gatekeeper there. The board has shown a lot of trust that nobody really wants to do it. So I'm the one that deals with the banks, and it's worked out pretty well thus far. And being that I can't sign anything, you know, we can't get in any trouble there. So that's it in a nutshell. We don't have any staff. Your staff is me and my support staff. You rely on the county staff to help us, and they're a great help. We'd have a lot of difficulty operating if it were not for Danielle and Yaksha and Sam and Julie and everybody else in the county that helps us. I think the Board of County Commissioners is happy with what you do, at least as the one who goes before them from time to time Nobody's thrown the gavel at me and shaken a finger in a long time. My dear departed friend Jan Platt was, in her gentle way, anti-private activity bonds, and we would have a polite but lively discussion every time I went before them for a bond, and that's about the extent of chastisement from the appointing authority that we've had. I think they're generally pleased if we don't cause trouble, which we don't. So that's it in a nutshell. And if there are any questions about what I do or what the support staff does or anything like that, or why we do things the way we do, feel free to bring it up here or call me or whatever.
And we do work hand in hand with the county economic development department. This is another tool that the county can use in their toolkit, as Tom likes to say. If a big business wants to relocate to Tampa, we can offer these low interest type bonds for them to either start from scratch or build their business or expand their facilities. And of course, we've I think what was it, with the billions of dollars since this authority, I think you guesstimated at one time since we've started.
My guesstimate of your total amount of issued bonds tripled last year because of those two big bond issues. From 1971 until 2020, I think you were probably in the neighborhood of $1 billion and small change.
Right.
Mostly because of very large bond issues for pollution control equipment for TECO.
TECO, right.
And some large bond issues for Tampa General, which then refund. So your original issuance amounts were under $1 billion, or maybe right around $1 billion. I didn't count in the amounts the refundings, where a $200 million bond issue keeps getting reissued as interest rates go down. I didn't include that as new money.
Right.
So if I did, you would have a bigger number. But your original issue number is in the billion plus change number. And then this year, you had almost $2 billion added onto it.
Right.
But that, of course, included some refunding money.
Right.
So, it skews the numbers a little bit because it's just rolling over some of the amount. But
we've actually helped finance several private schools in our community too.
We have. We've done financings for
I think Carrollwood Day School as well.
Jesuit, Carrollwood Day School, Academy of the Holy Names.
Holy Names, right.
I think we did one for Tampa Prep sometime back.
Yes, that's right.
What is now Corbett Prep, I think we did one for them. We've done things that you can't do anymore. We did pollution control financings for TECO, National Gypsum, and a couple of other big users. We did a bond issue, a fairly large one for Goodwill Industries. We've done them for Moffitt. The tissue bank, I can't remember its name.
The
tissue bank that's here in town.
Yes, that's right.
We used to do, before 1986 tax code changed, a lot of small issues for manufacturing facilities and just companies in general.
Right.
That you really can't do anymore. The rules changed in '86 with the new tax code, and pretty much limited us to not-for-profits and small issue manufacturing. But because the yield curves were so weird, where the conventional rates, and the conventional rates are so close to the tax-exempt rates, it didn't make sense economically for those small issues to come to us. They were better off going to banks, because although we can give them a long-term fixed low rate, our cost of issuance up front is a lot higher than conventional financing because of all the machinations that we have to go through. So that market pretty much gone. We get an occasional manufacturing project, usually for a bigger company that's more sophisticated and is doing projects in different states.
We had that pump manufacturer.
Big pump manufacturer was 2017.
Yeah.
But that was our first manufacturing deal in 10 years.
Right.
We haven't had one since. The authority periodically wants to get more proactive and advertise. We've come up with some ideas for pooled financings and any number of things. But the economic development entities in our county, which are primarily the County Economic Development Department and the Committee of 100, met with us some years ago. It's a number of years ago.
And several of the county commissioners came to us.
County staff and county commissioners, and it was agreed and that everyone would prefer for this authority just to be a tool in their economic development toolbox.
Right.
Because they're better suited to promote than we are. And of course, your $300,000 in your bank account would disappear if we started advertising and doing that kind of thing. So that's the way we've been operating for the last 10 years, I guess, as we react to what they do. You know, they'll develop any prospects and bring them to us and put us in touch for financing, with the possible exception of the hospitals. I think the hospitals come to us and let the county know that they want to come to us. But you know, the county would certainly be the one to connect me with any prospects they have, which I then connect with you all. So hence, that's why we don't have advertisements on the TV, and you guys aren't out, you know, talking this up and stuff, all of which we've discussed. The county commissioners and the administration and the chamber would prefer we not do that.
Right. In other counties, and just for everyone's benefit, either our new board members or people watching us, every county does it a little bit different. You know, some counties, there's counties that actually put money into the ID8 and they issue bonds. That hasn't always worked out very well in Hardy County, but the county commissioners have sat with us, say, hey, can we do something? So, and we're actually very open. We're not dismissive of any idea. And if people out there listening own a business and a big business and they want to do a bond with us, we're certainly open for business as well.
We were curious a few years ago as a board,
right,
about what everybody else was doing. And I believe it was St. Johns County.
Right. Did a survey.
Statewide survey of industrial development authorities and how they operated and how they were constituted and what they were doing. And our review and discussion of that indicated that ours is one of the more active authorities. Ours is a smoothly operating authority. And other than possibly Jacksonville, which I think works with their Port and Aviation Authority together, issuing bonds, and maybe Miami-Dade, which does things a little different, just about everybody in the state is operating the way this authority operates. And most of them contact me to copy your procedures and ask what we're doing, because I think our county has a reputation of doing everything well. And fortunately, the authority gets the benefit of the county's reputation in that regard. And you haven't had bad publicity, so everyone thinks that because the county is doing so well, the authority must be doing well. And I get lots of calls from other IDAs and other counties saying, can you send us copies of what you're doing, and can you confer with our people and talk it through. So I think you all are on the right track and doing it the right way. And I think the guidance that we received from the county to help us get on the right track was very valuable. So I think you're all doing a really good job.
In that guidance and mission statement that we reviewed, I guess last year, that's been completed and it's up online. Are we still?
No, that was something that was put out by St. Johns County, and I distributed it to everybody. But it was a number of years ago, so it was before we got online. Mm-hmm. So that's in our archives, but we haven't published it.
Okay.
But if anybody wants it, they can contact me and I'll dig it up.
Okay.
I have 43 years of records, so if anybody wants anything, it's there somewhere.
Well, we appreciate that. And again, thank you for the history lesson, because like I said, we do have several new members, and this is our premiere show on television. So we'd like to get the word out there that we're here. And, that is different from, let's say, the Housing Finance Authority Board, which my mother served on for 25 years. They have a thing called the Sadowski Fund, which the monies go into the dock stamps of everybody who buys any piece of property in the state, and that goes into a pot, and then the legislature redistributes it. But that's different than our board, who we basically, through Tom and the Economic Development Department of Hillsborough County, we kind of sit back and review, and
the mission of those two boards
it's different,
are very different. That's apples and oranges. There are multiple bond issuing authorities in our county, including the cities. The cities are generally moving away from being private activity bond issuers. I don't think they're 100% there yet, but I talk with the respective finance directors from time to time, and they don't like doing private activity bonds. They'd rather do water and sewer bonds and road bonds and those kind of things. The port does port bonds. The aviation authority does aviation bonds. The sports authority, does their own bonds. But the cities, particularly the smaller ones, don't particularly like to do it.
Right.
So in the future, we may be seeing more and more. We have countywide authority, so your authority can issue bonds in Plant City, for example, and has. You have a policy buried in your guidelines that you won't unless the other jurisdictions say it's okay.
Right.
So, for example, if we had somebody come to us for a bond issue for a ship repair facility in the port, I would contact the Port Authority and say, hey, we got this application. Do you want to do it, or do you want us to do it?
Right.
Same thing with Plant City. If we got something that was going to be done in Plant City, I would call the city manager and say, do you want to take it, or do you want us to do it? Conversely, they call me sometimes. So that's
And with the $1.2 billion bond we did with St. Joseph Baycare, we uniquely had to go to all the different, as you know, Baycare is in St. Pete or Pinellas and Pasco and several other jurisdictions. We had to get interlocal agreements with those other counties.
Interestingly,
which was very interesting.
Just about every bond issuing authority has the ability to cross county lines. Most have either by federal law or by policy said, we're not going to do one in Pasco unless we have a complementary one in Hillsborough, because we don't want to step on toes. They do the same thing. But sometimes, for example, Baycare would have their bigger facility or multiple facilities here and one somewhere else, and they'd ask the bigger jurisdiction that has the bigger project to also include financing for the smaller facility or the extra facility. They're not always smaller in the other county, because you don't want to have two bond issues when you can just have one. And that's what happened with Baycare.
Right.
Less so with Tampa General. They're mostly all here. I think they're all here.
Right.
So that's come up from time to time. So at the risk of prolonging the meeting a little more, there's another phenomena where outsiders come and ask for approval for things that we're not going to be doing, but they need our county to approve it. The details are unimportant. The idea is that it's a lot of work because our county takes very seriously getting into the weeds in the financial aspects of transactions. And the Board of County Commissioners is moving away, or has moved away, from entertaining those type of things where neither our county nor our IDA are issuing no bonds, but because somebody else is going to issue bonds, for example, Jacksonville, let's just take they haven't done it, but let's just pick them because they're a big boy. Let's say Jacksonville was approached and they wanted to do a deal in Hillsborough, and you would be asked to do it, or some other entity. It's irrelevant who the entity is, but they need county approval. Well, the county has issued a policy that that's more trouble than they want to take on because it's a lot of work for their staff. They would refer them to us, and we would then tell that person, okay, but here's our application fee, which I don't remember exactly. I think it's $25,000, just to have us look at it. And it might even be more. We engage then our financial advisor and our bond counsel, and we underwrite their bond issue just as you would one of your own. Because you just don't want an outsider coming in and having something blow up. We, as a result, I think we're going to be seeing fewer and fewer of those, but we'll see. That just gives you an idea of all the stuff that goes on that you all don't hear about. There's a lot.
Exactly, and that's why I'm glad you guys are patient enough to take all this in.
Yeah, we got you here. We're just going to talk at you for a long time.
And we're still under an hour, so we're still okay for time.
So back to the budget.
Before we forget, yes, I will entertain a motion to accept and receive our budget, number one, and before we do the audit. So if I entertain a motion from one of our board members to accept the budget and receive it for next year.
Tony Rodriguez, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to accept
I have a
and
motion
receive.
from Tony. Thank you for that. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Pat, appreciate that. We have a second one from Pat Ahern. So I'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the budget as it was presented to us today, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the ayes have it unanimously. I'll vote aye as well.
So that'll go up on the webpage as well.
Okay, thanks. Second issue is accepting and receiving the audit from Prita Guida, reviewing all of our finances for the last for the year ending September 30th, 2020, that y'all received and hopefully an opportunity to look at. Is there any questions at all from the audit? Again, I think I'll give you one last chance if anybody. I think you mentioned something, but you got that out. Anybody else have any questions from the audit? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to accept and receive the audit that was presented to us for our board.
So move.
Who was that?
Dick Donahoe.
Okay, Dick, I'm sorry. I have 4 layers of plastic to get to you, so you're kind of blurred a little bit over there. So I have a motion from Dick to accept the audit. Do I hear a second from someone else?
Second.
Okay. Tony Rodriguez seconded that motion, so I'll take it out to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, and I'll vote for it as well, so.
Chairman, in fairness, because I got this to the board so late, with your permission, I'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay.
For discussion, and if anybody wants to discuss it, we can. If they don't, we don't.
Okay. All right. Anything from the Economic Development Department down there in the dark? Anybody else online wishes to say anything? Do we have any new business? Anything else in the pipeline? Anything at all? Okay. So we want to thank everybody this morning who came to visit with us and see us online for the first time. And thank our financial advisors, Sandy, Grace, and everyone else who works with us. And with that, I'll hear a motion to adjourn. Anybody?
So move.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Can you second your own motion? No, I'm just kidding. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and appreciate those who came to visit us with us this morning on TV. Thank you.
Victor, if you'll stick around, I have some signatures.
Sure. Okay.